Welcome back to the Deep Dive. I want to start today by taking you back to a moment I think every single person listening has felt.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this.
Right. Picture this. It's 2 in the morning. You've been studying for some big exam or maybe prepping a huge presentation for work for like 6 hours straight.
Yep, the empty coffee mugs are everywhere.
Exactly. You're surrounded by open books, browser tabs. You've highlighted pretty much every other sentence. You've reread the material 3 times, and you feel, you know, locked in. You feel like a genius.
It's that feeling of, I have conquered this subject.
Yes. But then you wake up the next morning, you sit down to take the test, or you stand up to give the speech, and you reach for that one fact you were so sure of.
Why nothing, it's just a blank.
It is gone. It is like someone formatted your hard drive while you were sleeping.
It is so incredibly frustrating. And what makes it worse is that you put in the work. You didn't slack off, you did the hours.
Right. But the result just isn't there. And that is the specific pain point we are digging into today. Why does our brain just dump information we desperately want to keep?
Well, we're diving into the science of successful learning and memory, and we're using the book Make It Stick as our guide.
We are. We're using a fantastic breakdown by Pinar Ezkind to help navigate the research from 3 cognitive psychologists, Brown, Roediger, and McDaniel. And I have to say, looking at all this, I feel a little
Attacked.
attacked. How so?
Because it seems like everything I was ever taught about how to study in school, the rereading, the highlighting, the cramming.
All the classics.
Yeah. It's not just slightly inefficient, it's like flat out wrong.
It's largely a waste of time, yes. The core idea in Make It Stick is that we fall for something they call the illusion of competence.
The illusion of competence.
We confuse reading something and recognizing it with actually mastering it. And those are two very different things happening in the brain. So our mission today is to basically strip down our learning habits and rebuild them with a toolkit that, that actually works. Whether you're pivoting your career, learning a new language, or just trying to remember what you read.
I think this is for everyone, but before we get to the tactics, the how-to part, we need to understand the hardware.
Right. We need to look under the hood. Pinar Ezkind uses this great analogy of a guest to describe how new information enters the brain. Could you walk us through that? What is physically happening when I learn a new fact?
Okay, so when you first encounter a new piece of information, let's say it's a new password or a date from history, it enters a part of your brain called the hippocampus.
The hippocampus.
And Uskin calls the hippocampus the guest room of the brain.
Okay, the guest room. I like that.
It's a temporary space. It's really not designed for long-term residents, so you can think of that new information sitting there like a drawing you made in the sand on a beach.
Okay, so it's visible, it's clear for a moment, but it's incredibly fragile.
Exactly, because the tide is always coming in. I mean, you have to realize, from an evolutionary point of view, your brain is designed to filter out noise.
Right, it can't keep everything.
It's constantly bombarded with data, the hum of the lights, the feeling of your socks. If it kept everything, you would go insane. So the brain's default mode is just delete.
So the guest is sitting in the guest room, bags unpacked, but the brain is basically checking its watch, just waiting for them to leave so it can clean the room.
Precisely. Unless you do something specific to convince the brain that this guest is actually family, that's the key.
Yeah.
You have to move that information from the fragile hippocampus to the neocortex.
Which is the long-term storage, the concrete bunker.
That's the bunker. And that process is called consolidation.
So how do we do that? How do we force that move? How do we get the guest a permanent key to the house?
Well, the source material points to one specific biological function that acts as the moving van. And it's the one thing most of us sacrifice when we're trying to learn.
Let me guess. Sleep.
It's always sleep.
I feel like sleep is the answer to everything in these deep dives lately. The secret hero.
It really is. But in learning, it's just non-negotiable. See, sleep isn't a passive break. It's active processing. When you sleep, your brain sorts through that guest room.
It's deciding who gets to stay.
Exactly. It looks at the drawings in the sand and decides which ones to cast in concrete. It replays the neural patterns of the day, connects them to what you already know, and says, okay, this guest stays. This one can go.
There's another metaphor from the source that really helped me visualize this. The coffee cup versus the sealed bottle.
Oh, this is a great one. It explains why you can't just keep cramming more and more info in without taking a break.
So set it up for us.
Imagine your short-term working memory, that hippocampus area, is a coffee cup filled to the absolute brim.
Okay, So surface tension is the only thing holding it all in.
Right. Now, if you want to carry that cup across a crowded room, what happens to your focus?
It has to be 100% on the cup. I can't look around. I can't check my phone. I definitely can't run.
Exactly. That is the cognitive load of unconsolidated information. It just demands all your attention to keep it from spilling. You feel stressed because your mental RAM is totally full.
But once you sleep on it,
Once you sleep and consolidate, it's like pouring that coffee into a sealed water bottle. You screw the cap on tight. Now you can throw it in your bag. You can run for the bus. You can think about other things. The information is secure.
so the goal isn't just to fill the cup, it's to get the lid on so we can actually use the information later.
Right.
But this is where I think I, and probably most of us, get it totally wrong. We think we're tightening the lid, but really we're just staring at the cup.
You're talking about rereading.
I am. I'm a chronic rereader. If I really want to learn something, I'll read the chapter, highlight the good parts, and then the next day I'll read my highlights. And I feel so productive when I do it.
And that feeling is a lie.
Ouch. Okay, tell me why.
It brings us right back to the illusion of competence. When you reread a sentence for the third time, your brain recognizes it. It goes, oh, hey, I've seen this before. I know this.
But recognizing isn't knowing.
No. You're confusing familiarity with mastery.
So familiarity is just, I've seen this face before, but mastery is, I know this person's name and their whole life story.
That's a perfect way to put it. Rereading creates fluency with the text, but it doesn't create the mental structures you need. It's like looking at a barbell on the gym floor and saying, yeah, I know that weighs 50 pounds.
Okay.
You can look at it all day. You can highlight the little 50 printed on the side, but until you actually pick it up, you are not getting any stronger.
And in this analogy, picking it up is retrieving the information.
Yes. The science is incredibly clear on this. Learning happens when you struggle to pull information out of your brain, not when you effortlessly stuff it in. You have to lift the weight.
So practically speaking, if I've just read a chapter of this book and I want to make sure I learned it, what do? Highlighting is out.
You use what they call the blank sheet method. It is terrifyingly simple and honestly pretty uncomfortable at first.
Walk me through the discomfort.
You finish the chapter, you close the book, you put it away where you can't see it. Then you take a blank sheet of paper and you force yourself to write down everything you remember.
And if I'm being honest with myself, I'm probably going to realize I only remember about 10% of it.
You will panic. You'll get 3 things down, and then your mind will just go completely blank. You'll feel stupid, and you'll have this overwhelming urge to just peek at the book.
And I shouldn't peek.
Do not open the book.
Yeah.
Sit in that struggle. Squeeze your brain. Because that specific moment where you're frowning and trying to dig through the guest room to find that info, that is the learning.
That's the muscle growing.
That is the muscle growing. Even if you can't recall it right then, the act of trying to recall it primes your brain so that when you do look it up later, it sticks like glue.
That makes so much sense. It's like the difference between being a passenger in a car and being the driver.
That's a perfect analogy. Rereading is being a passenger. Retrieval practice is driving.
There was also a specific tip about note-taking in the source material that I thought was really clever.
Oh, yes. Usually we act like stenographers, right? We hear a fact, we write the fact down. Ataturk landed in Samson on May 19th, 1919.
Which is a standard fact. I would definitely write that down.
But that's passive. The strategy from the book is to write a question instead. Don't write the fact, right? When did Ataturk land in Samson?
Oh, I see. So when I go back to review my notes later, I'm not just reading the answer. I'm forcing myself to take a mini test every single time.
You've just turned your notebook into a retrieval practice tool. Every time you look at the page, you have to lick the weight.
Okay, so we're retrieving, not just rereading. Now I want to shift to the schedule of learning. Because even if I use retrieval, my instinct is still to focus on one thing until I nail it. You know, if I'm learning French, I want to do French verbs for 3 hours on a Sunday.
That's called massed practice or blocking. And again, it feels right. It feels good because you get into a rhythm, a flow state. You see rapid improvement during that one session.
Right. By hour 3 of French verbs, I'm conjugating like a native speaker.
But the research shows that that kind of blocked learning is like blowing soap bubbles. It looks huge and shiny in the moment, but it just pops almost immediately. It doesn't transfer to long-term memory.
So what's the alternative?
The scientific term is interleaving.
Interleaving. Okay, define that for us.
Interleaving just means mixing up your practice. Instead of doing 3 hours of verbs, you do 30 minutes of verbs, then 30 minutes of listening, maybe 30 minutes of history, then back to verbs. You scramble the input.
That sounds chaotic. And honestly, it sounds really frustrating.
It is frustrating. But there's this famous study with a college baseball team that proves why it's so much better. It's one of the most compelling parts of the book.
Okay, set the scene for us.
So researchers took a college baseball team, split them into two groups for batting practice, and they were practicing hitting 3 types of pitches: fastballs, curveballs, and changeups. Group A did block practice. They were told, okay, here come 15 fastballs, then here come 15 curveballs.
So they knew exactly what was coming. They could dial in their swing for that specific pitch.
Exactly. And they looked like heroes. They were crushing the ball. Their confidence was through the roof.
And then you have Group B.
Group B got interleaved practice. They stepped up to the plate and they had no idea what pitch was coming next. Fastball, then a curveball, then another fastball, then a changeup. A total mix.
I can imagine that looked pretty ugly.
It was a disaster. I mean, they were swinging and missing. They looked clumsy. They were probably getting really frustrated. If you asked them, are you learning? They would have said, no, I'm getting worse. This is not working.
But then came the test.
The actual game conditions. They tested both groups with random pitches. And the results were just shocking. Group A, the ones who practice in blocks, the ones who look like heroes, they completely crumbled. Their performance plummeted.
Wow.
Yeah.
They practiced so well.
Because they hadn't learned how to read the pitch. They had just memorized a robotic motion for fastball. But in the real world, nobody yells, hey, fastball coming.
And Group B, the ones who struggled so much in practice.
Group B outperformed Group A by a massive margin.
Because the chaos of the practice actually forced them to adapt.
Yes. By not knowing what was coming, their brains had to reload the program for every single pitch. Is this a curve? No. Is it a fastball? Yes. Swing. That split-second decision, that is where the real skill actually lives.
The takeaway here is so profound. If you organize your learning too neatly, you're not preparing for reality. Because life is interleaved. Life is messy.
That's it. So if you're learning to code, don't just solve 10 loop problems in a row. Solve a loop problem, then a database problem, then a UI problem. It will feel harder. You will feel stupider. But you will actually be learning how to code, not just how to copy syntax.
This theme just keeps coming up. This idea that difficulty is actually a good sign. If it hurts a little, it's working.
The psychologists call it desirable difficulty. It's the Goldilocks zone. You don't want it to be impossible, but you absolutely want it to be hard enough that you have to struggle.
Pinar Iskent gave a great example of this with learning software buttons. That really clicked for me.
Right. Imagine I'm teaching you a new piece of software. If I stand over your shoulder and say, okay, click File, then click Export, then click PDF, you can do it instantly.
Right. No effort at all.
It feels easy. But you're basically just a robot following my orders. Your brain is on autopilot. It isn't encoding the location of those buttons.
But if you just say, okay, figure out how to make a PDF, and then you walk away.
Now you're clicking on random menus, you're looking at icons, you're getting annoyed. But when you finally find that export button, your brain marks it with a giant red X. It says, wow, we worked hard for this. We better not lose it. The struggle itself signals importance.
So we need to embrace that frustration. But there's another layer here, which is how we process information we hear. Like this deep dive, for example. I'm listening to you, I'm nodding along, I feel like I get it. Is that enough?
Sadly, no. Passive listening has a very, very low retention rate. To make it stick, you need to use a technique called elaboration.
Which means?
It means you have to translate the information into your own language. You have to explain it to someone else.
Okay, now I work from home. My coworkers are a golden retriever and a very judgmental houseplant. Do they count as an audience?
Absolutely. In fact, explaining a complex concept to a dog or, a rubber duck, as computer programmers do, is incredibly powerful because you can't use jargon with the dog. You have to simplify. You have to find your own analogies.
Okay, buddy. The hippocampus is like your toy basket, but we need to move the good toys to the garage so you don't forget them.
Exactly. If you can explain it simply, it means you understand it deeply. And then you have to connect it to your own life. Don't just learn a marketing theory. Write down, how can I use this for my product launch next Tuesday?
So personalization makes abstract data into a concrete tool.
That's the key.
Okay, I want to close out with the mental barriers we all put up. Because all these tactics, retrieval, interleaving, desirable difficulty, they require real effort. And so often we tell ourselves, oh, I can't do that. I'm just not a math person. Or I'm a visual learner. I can't learn from a book.
We have to bust that learning styles myth right now. It's so pervasive. It's everywhere in schools. But the research is just crystal clear. It's not true.
It's not true. but I feel like I learn better with video.
You might prefer video, you might enjoy it more, but the data shows you do not learn better if the instruction is matched to your so-called preference. In fact, sticking to just one style actually hurts you.
So the best learning is multimodal.
Exactly. Even if you love video, you should be forcing yourself to write a summary after. Watch the video, then write about it, then say it out loud. Using visual, kinetic, and auditory channels creates a sort of 3D model of the memory in your brain.
And that leads to the final hurdle, which might be the most damaging one of all, the fixed mindset.
This comes from Carol Dweck's work. If you say, I am not a tech person, or I am bad with names, you are essentially locking the door to the guest room. You're telling your hippocampus, don't even bother with this info. I'm not capable of keeping it.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It is. But if you shift to a growth mindset, if you just add the word yet, I am not a tech person yet, you give your brain permission to be clumsy. You accept that the errors in the interleaved practice, like those baseball players swinging and missing, they aren't failures. They're just data points.
Pinar shares a story about a mentee who did exactly this, right?
Yes, someone who identified as not techie at all, but ended up leading a massive digital transformation project. Their brain didn't change. Their belief changed. They stopped seeing struggle as a sign of incompetence and started seeing it as the actual sensation of learning.
That's the perfect note to end on. It really all comes down to bravery. You have to be brave enough to look a little stupid while you figure something out.
That is the price of admission for growth.
So let's recap the toolkit. We've covered a ton of ground here. If our listener wants to start lifting some heavy weights with their brain today, what are the headlines?
Number 1, embrace the struggle. If it feels easy, you're probably not learning. Look for that desirable difficulty.
Okay.
Number 2, retrieve. Don't just reread. Use that blank sheet method. Put the book away and force yourself to sweat a little.
Got it.
Number 3, interleave. Mix up your practice. Don't just block it. You have to keep your brain guessing. And number 4, sleep on it. Let the guests settle in and become family.
And finally, check your mindset. You aren't broken. You just need to lift the weight.
Exactly. And I'll leave you with this question to think about. If your daily work or your study routine feels comfortable and smooth and error-free, are you actually growing? Or are you just entertaining yourself with things you already know? True learning requires the courage to be a beginner. So are you brave enough to feel incompetent today in order to be smarter tomorrow?
That is a challenge worth accepting. Go out there, embrace the awkwardness, and lift some heavy weights with your brain. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.